Step inside a cathedral on a winter morning in medieval England. The stained glass windows don't cast rainbows today. They bleed uneasy light across the flagstones, painting the world in fractured sorrow. Every echo in this holy place is a drumbeat of destiny, and the air, sweet with incense, sharp with cold, presses against your lungs like a warning. Look to the altar. Forget the pageantry for a moment. Look past the gold, the velvet, the empty smiles of nobles and priests. Look at the girl, yes, that girl. Her hands clenched so tight, her knuckles pale, eyes darting, chest rising with silent panic. She is 13 years old, a child dressed as a bride. Her name is Eleanor of Provence. The man beside her is a stranger, a king twice her age, and tonight, with the eyes of England upon her, she will be expected to become a woman. But she is not trembling with excitement. She is trembling with dread. This is not a love story. This is a transaction, sealed with titles, with land, with cold calculations made in candlelit rooms by men who never bothered to ask her what she wanted. This is a world where innocence is just another asset to be sold, where childhood ends not with time, but with a signature on a marriage contract. Tonight, her wedding night will not be a celebration, but a public trial, a ritual of pain, fear, and humiliation. A parade of faces will watch her walk to a bed she does not want, for a man she does not know, to prove to a kingdom that she is worthy of being called queen, that her body is now royal property, her suffering the price of power. Forget what you've seen in movies. Forget fairy tales. There is no magic here, only the cold certainty that before dawn, she will be stripped of more than her innocence. She will be stripped of her voice, her safety, her very sense of self. This is why medieval queens did not dream of wedding nights. They feared them more than war, more than death itself. Because in the shadows behind every crown, every celebration, every promise of forever, there is a story written in blood and tears, a story of girls forced to become women, alone and terrified, in a world that never truly saw them. Welcome to the real history. Welcome to the night every queen dreaded, and welcome to the truth that no one wants to remember. Part 1. Behind the Veil. Daughters. As currency, forget every fairy tale you were fed as a child. In the real medieval world, there was no once upon a time for the daughters of kings and lords. Their lives were not spun from dreams, but from deals struck behind closed doors, inked with the sweat of anxious fathers and the signatures of powerful strangers. Royal marriage was business, and the bride, the asset. No one cared about her laughter. No one asked about her fears. What mattered was her value, acres of land, the gold sewn into her dowry, the alliances sealed by the echo of church bells. Love? Love was a dangerous distraction, a risk to be stamped out before it could threaten the careful balance of dynasties and borders. Picture this. You're 10 years old. Your hair still smells like sun, your fingers stained from the garden, your dreams built from scraps of lullabies and the warmth of your mother's arms. Then, one evening, the summons comes. You walk into your father's study, heart skipping in your chest. The candles burn low, casting long shadows across the floor, shadows that seem to swallow you whole. Your father, who once tucked you in at night, does not look you in the eye. He tells you flatly, you are promised. The contract is signed. You will leave for a kingdom whose name you cannot pronounce. No questions, no protest, no pity. You are not a child anymore. You are an asset, packaged, priced, and ready to be shipped. Your fate has been bartered for a treaty, a patch of farmland, a chance at peace. Your voice, irrelevant. Your body, collateral. Your dreams, expendable. They measure your worth not in the sparkle of your eyes or the joy in your voice, but in how many armies your marriage will unite, how much gold will cross borders when you do, how many sons you might someday produce. You become a chess piece, moving not under your own will, but according to the hands of men who trade you like coins in a counting house. And from the moment your father's seal dries on the contract, your childhood is over. Your old toys gather dust. Your laughter is choked into silence. You walk the halls of your home as a stranger, waiting for the day you will be sent away to a life you did not choose. Some girls, like Margaret Bowett, didn't even have the illusion of control. Betrothed at 6, bartered away again at 9, her future shuffled from one would-be husband to another. Each promise, each handshake between powerful men pressed the door of her prison a little tighter. Now, imagine the mind of a child trapped in this machinery. Every bedtime story ends with the same line. You belong to someone else. You grow up with your future hanging over your head like a guillotine, never knowing when it will fall. The terror is not just in leaving home, but in the knowledge that you are nothing more than a body in waiting, a seedbed for heirs, a ticket to alliance, a tool for someone else's legacy. You lose yourself before you even know who you are. Your favorite song, your native tongue, your most private thoughts, all erased, overwritten by duty, by the strange customs of foreign courts, by the relentless expectation that you must submit, smile, and survive. These are not stories of love denied. These are stories where love is not even a possibility. A royal daughter in the Middle Ages learns early. Hope is for fools. Survival is for the strong. Your every step is watched. Your every word is weighed. And behind the veil of white lace and gold lies the simple, brutal truth. A princess is only valuable so long as she is useful. A queen is only beloved so long as she delivers. And a child in this world is only safe until the ink on her marriage contract dries. This is what they never show you in the history books. This is the world that lives in the shadows behind the veil. Part 2. The Nightmare of the Wedding Night. Now the wedding bells have faded, the laughter drowned in wine and ritual, and the last slant of sunlight is dying behind castle walls. A little girl, dressed as a queen, paralyzed with dread, waits in a gilded chamber that will become her prison. Tonight, everything changes. Tonight, innocence is currency and fear is the only language spoken. The ceremony is not over. No, this is only the opening act. Let me drag you into the cold truth. The bedding ceremony. Forget privacy. Forget tenderness. Tonight, the most intimate threshold of a human life becomes a grotesque performance, a living nightmare staged for the entertainment of the powerful and the curious. Dozens of courtiers, family, strangers, even servants, faces flushed with wine, eyes shining with voyeuristic hunger, escort the royal couple to their bedchamber. Jokes fly. Hands snatch at clothing, stripping layers from the bride and groom. The girl, 13, maybe younger, shivers under the gaze of a crowd, her skin crawling, her mind breaking. They say this is tradition. They say this is duty. But what it really is, ritualized trauma. The room smells of sweat, perfume, and fear. The air is electric with anticipation. Will the marriage be consummated? Will the kingdom get its heir? The child queen is forced to lay bare her body, her terror, her fate, before an audience that cheers and leers, demanding proof that the contract is fulfilled. Sometimes the crowd stays. Sometimes curtains are drawn, but whispers leak through the velvet. Sometimes there is nowhere to hide. And always, always the burden is hers to bear. She looks at her new husband, a stranger twice her age or more. Tonight, he is both executioner and warden. His touch is not gentle, his right unquestioned. Her cries, her shame, her pain, all of it becomes public property, currency for the hungry court, evidence that the queen is now a vessel for the next dynasty. Afterwards, if she survives, there is no peace. Physicians come to poke and prod. Sheets are checked for blood. Gossip rushes through the halls like wildfire. Did it happen? Was she pure? Will there be an heir? What does it feel like to wake up bleeding and broken? To know that your body has been sacrificed before you even learn to say no? What does it do to the mind, to the spirit, to realize that your suffering is not a secret, but a spectacle? This is not drama. This is not tragedy. This is the reality medieval queens faced, the kind of horror no Disney film would dare to show. And for too many, it was only the beginning, because here, in the cold glow of dawn, the nightmare is just getting started. Part 3. After the night. Broken bodies, haunted minds. Dawn does not bring peace. It drags its pale light across the bedchamber, revealing blood on the sheets, bruises blooming like violets on the skin of a child. She lies there, awake but not awake, drifting between nightmare and reality, her soul hovering somewhere above her ruined body. The palace stirs. Duty wakes before the sun. First, the cold hands of physicians descend. Their faces are stone masks, no comfort, no apology. They lift the sheets, searching for proof. Did she bleed? Was the bargain fulfilled? They prod, they whisper, they write in their ledgers, their words sharp as scalpels. Violated, used, the lines secured. Every drop of blood becomes evidence. Every wound becomes a receipt. Outside, the courtiers wait, hungry for gossip. Behind gilded doors, rumors are currency. Did she cry? Did he force her? Was she truly a virgin? No secret is sacred. No pain is private. The humiliation does not end with the night. It grows fangs in the morning, prowling the corridors, whispered into the ears of strangers. The queen is expected to smile, to rise, bow, perform her role as if she has not just been broken on the wheel of royal tradition. She is praised for her duty, patted on the head for her bravery, but her soul bleeds in silence. But the true torment has only begun, because in this cruel machinery, a queen is not a person. She is a vessel. She exists to bear heirs, to continue the bloodline, to guarantee alliances with her own womb. Every month, she is watched. Servants note the days, report on the flow of blood or lack thereof. Every meal is scrutinized. Every sign of nausea becomes a spectacle. Court physicians poke, prod, and judge. Are you pregnant yet? If not, the whispers begin. She is barren. She is cursed. She has failed her king. There is no hiding. There is no rest. Loneliness wraps itself around her like a second skin. She is far from home, her own language a forbidden song on her tongue, her letters home censored, her old friends lost to the mists of childhood. She tries to write, "Mother, I am afraid," but the words never leave her chamber, and the silence answers back. Some days she walks the gardens, hoping to find comfort in the flowers, but even there she is not alone. Eyes follow her, servants shadow her steps, always watching, always reporting. Other days she sits for hours in front of a window, staring out at a world she cannot touch, longing for a freedom she will never know. Her body, a battlefield. Pregnancy comes too early, before her bones have finished growing, before her mind has learned how to hope again. Labor is an ordeal, a bloody gamble with death. The screams of a child queen echo down the halls while priests pray outside for an heir. Many girls do not survive. They bleed out on the birthing bed, nameless except for the titles bestowed by men. If they live, it is only to be sent back to that bed again and again until their bodies give out or the king grows bored. The mind cracks under the strain. Nightmares bloom in the dark. Memories of the wedding night, of the crowd, of the pain that ripped childhood away forever. Some queens stop speaking altogether, their voices lost somewhere between trauma and exhaustion. Some refuse food, shrinking into nothingness as the world cheers their noble sacrifice. Others scribble frantic letters, desperate for rescue, their pleas unread, their hope returned unopened. There are a few, rare, fierce, unbroken, who find power in the cracks. They learn to manipulate, to play the court's games, to carve out a tiny corner of safety or even influence. But most do not. Most wither in the shadows, ghosts in silk, performing the same ritual every day, smile, obey, survive. And every dawn, the ordeal begins again. A parade of doctors, a swarm of rumors, a world that sees only the crown, not the child beneath. This is the legacy no historian can gild. This is what it costs to be queen in a world that values your body more than your soul. Every crown hides a scar. Every royal portrait is painted over broken bones. And still, the world wonders why so many queens faded away, why so many stories end in silence. This is why. Part 4. Exile in the Palace. Isolation, desperation, and silent rebellion. Time blurs. Days bleed into nights, seasons change, but the prison remains the same. The palace, with its marble columns and gilded halls, is nothing but a beautiful cage. Every sound echoes, every shadow watches. The language of power is foreign, sharp as a blade, and every gesture is a test she never asked to take. The child queen is alone. Stripped of family, stripped of friends, she wanders through endless corridors, a ghost in gold, her footsteps swallowed by velvet carpets. Servants murmur in a tongue she struggles to understand. Courtiers treat her as a curiosity, a symbol, never as a person. Her laughter is a distant memory, buried beneath the weight of duty. Letters home become her only lifeline, words inked in the hope that someone somewhere still remembers the girl she used to be. Mother, do you miss me? Do you remember my song? But every letter is read, censored, sometimes never sent. The emptiness grows. Nights are the hardest. She lies awake, listening to the wind rattle the stained glass, wondering if anyone in the world can hear her silent cries. Nightmares stalk her dreams, the bedding ceremony, the pain, the blood. Sometimes she wakes screaming, only to find herself more alone than ever. In the garden, she searches for something real, a flower, a breeze, a moment of beauty that is hers alone. She clings to small rituals, a whispered prayer, a hidden locket, a lullaby in her own language, but the walls are high and the eyes of the court are everywhere. Desperation breeds rebellion. Some queens retreat into prayer, seeking comfort from saints and shadows. Others become cold, calculating, learning the games of intrigue, turning survival into a weapon. A rare few fight back, smuggling secret messages, forging unlikely alliances, even poisoning those who would harm them. But for most, the rebellion is silent, a tightening of the jaw, a glance held a second too long, a refusal to break, no matter how many times the world tries to shatter them. There are days when the child queen wonders if she will ever escape, if she will ever again belong to herself. She dreams of the river near her childhood home, the laughter of friends, the taste of wild honey. Sometimes she whispers these memories into the empty air, holding on to them like prayers. But the world is not kind to girls who remember. The older queens teach her this: forget who you were, forget what you loved. To survive, you must become what they demand. A shadow with a crown, a voice that never speaks too loud, a heart that never hopes too much. And so she learns. She learns to walk with her head high even when her spirit breaks. She learns to mask her pain behind flawless courtesy. She learns the bitter truth of survival, that sometimes the only victory is not letting the world see you cry. Yet deep inside, a tiny spark survives, a secret rebellion, a promise to herself. I am more than a vessel. I am more than a bride. I am more than their stories say I am. And this, too, is history, not written in books, but carved into the hearts of queens who endured. Part 5, The Last Whisper. Crowns, scars, and the human spirit. Night falls in the palace, but it is not peace. It is a deeper kind of silence, the hush that comes after too much weeping, when the world has turned its back and only the moon keeps watch. Alone by the window, the queen sits, older now, or maybe only more worn, her hands clasped tight, her eyes searching the darkness for a promise she once believed in. She remembers everything. She remembers the first night, the cold hands, the foreign tongue, the blood-staining white linen. She remembers the echo of laughter behind doors, the sting of a physician's questions, the way the walls seemed to close in with every passing day. She remembers how her heart shrank with each miscarriage, each whispered accusation, each new bruise hidden beneath layers of silk and protocol. She remembers the letters she wrote home, pouring her soul into lines of ink. Letters that were read, censored, sometimes burned. She remembers the hunger for a voice, the desperate wish for someone, anyone, to see her, not as a queen, not as a vessel, but as a frightened child clutching at the last tatters of her selfhood. The crown sits on the table before her, glittering in the moonlight. Once, she thought it meant power, maybe even dignity. Now she knows it is only a collar, forged from the suffering of girls like her across centuries, 1,000 stories of pain compressed into a single silent diadem. She thinks of all the others, the 8-year-old French princess who crossed a cold sea to a country that called her an outsider, forced to abandon her language and her God. The 13-year-old English bride who bled and bled until she thought she would float away on the crimson tide of her own fear. The girl who bore an heir and lost herself in the process, who vanished into madness, her songs forgotten, her name twisted into legend. How many of them were there, pressed into these halls, their hopes broken on the wheel of royal necessity? And yet, in this darkness, something remains. Not hope, not quite, not faith, for the world has offered precious little of that, but a stubborn ember, a wild, aching refusal to disappear. She clings to fragments, a childhood melody, a memory of her mother's embrace, the wildflowers that once grew beside a sunlit river far from this place of stone and shadow. Some nights, when the court is sleeping and only the wind and her heart bear witness, she lets herself remember who she was. She whispers her true name into the darkness over and over, as if she can stitch herself back together with sound. She sings softly, just for herself, the lullabies of her homeland, the ones that no one here understands. And in that song, for a moment, she is more than a title, more than a contract, more than a body waiting for the next demand. She dreams, sometimes, of escape, not just from these walls, but from history itself. She dreams of running barefoot through fields of golden light, of laughing with a friend whose face she can barely recall. She dreams of a world where girls are not bartered for boarders, where no one ever has to tremble at the altar, where the word queen means freedom and not a lifetime sentence. In her dreams, she is no longer alone. She is joined by the silent army of girls and women who came before and after, an unbroken line of voices, rising, echoing, refusing to be silenced. Their pain fuses with hers, becomes a shield and a banner. They are wounds, yes, but also warriors. They are cautionary tales, but also songs of defiance. And when the first light of dawn creeps into her prison, she lifts her chin, lets it touch her scars, and knows this, that the world will never write her truth into the histories of kings. But even so, the truth is written in her bones, her blood, her tears. She is both warning and witness. She is the last whisper and the loudest scream hidden beneath centuries of silence. So remember this, you who inherit the world they made, every crown is heavy with the ghosts of broken girls. Every page of history is stitched with wounds. And if you listen, really listen, you will hear them still, singing their stories into the darkness, demanding to be seen, to be known, to be mourned, to be honored. This is what it means to survive when survival was never meant for you. To hold onto yourself, however tattered, to bear witness, however lonely, to keep the ember burning, however small, until one day the world is forced to see the fire. Behind every throne, behind every tale of glory, are girls who walked through hell and wore their scars like armor. Their suffering is not just a lesson. Their endurance is not just a warning. It is a legacy, one the world cannot erase.